Hello everyone, Darren from DrayTek Australia and New Zealand. In this webinar, we'll be expanding a little on the previous DrayOS 5 webinar and exploring the Zero Trust Network architecture in DrayTek routers. Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA, is the main technology that enables organisations to implement Zero Trust security. The core concept is simple: never trust, always verify, and assume everything is hostile by default. That means that all devices on a network should not be trusted by default, even if they are connected to a permissioned network such as a corporate LAN, and even if they were previously verified. The term Zero Trust was coined by an analyst at Forrester Research Incorporated in 2010 when the model for the concept was first presented. A few years later, Google announced that they had implemented Zero Trust security in their network, which led to a growing interest in adoption within the tech community. In 2019, Gartner, a global research and advisory firm, listed Zero Trust Security Access as a core component of Secure Access Service Edge, that's SASE, solutions. With the increase in frequency, sophistication and cost of cyber attacks, the global focus on cybersecurity is at an all-time high. However, the goalposts for those tasked with protecting businesses have shifted. Hackers are in growing numbers, and once they compromise a business's security, they look to move laterally within the organisation. Remember crypto viruses, which encrypt everything on a network and then demand a ransom. On top of this, insider threats are on the rise, where trusted users take advantage of their access for nefarious purposes. ZTNA conceals most infrastructure and services, setting up one-to-one encrypted connections between devices and the resources they need. It uses micro-segmentation of the LAN to separate users and applications. This means that the tried and tested concept of perimeter-based security and defenses, where anything located on the corporate network is assumed to be trusted, is no longer enough. Security teams need to shift their thinking from the perimeter to the authentication and access of resources. This means looking at methods of both restricting access and monitoring access requests to ensure those utilising the environment are doing so appropriately. Once authenticated, users are allowed access only to the bare minimum they need to perform their job efficiently. Therefore, if a device or user account is compromised, Zero Trust aims to ensure that the damage is either mitigated by not allowing access, or at worst is limited in scope. It effectively means assuming that all devices and users represent a potential threat and cannot be trusted until they can be properly authenticated. The benefits of Zero Trust architecture are reduced threat surface, maximize use and authority of authentication, increased visibility into all user activity, the ability to dynamically provide access based on current use, reduce an attacker's ability to move laterally within an organisation, limit the possibility for data exfiltration, protection against both internal and external threats, lowered reliance on point solutions designed to detect or stop specific types of threat activity, improved overall security posture both on-premises and in the cloud. So, what is DrayTek's approach to a Zero Trust network architecture? Enter DrayOS 5. This is a new line of products which will utilise multi-core CPUs to do the work and will simplify product development. It will also have improved integration with Vigor access points. And DrayOS 5 is Zero Trust ready. It has built-in identity and access management. And finally, it will redesign the flow for most functions such as VPN, firewall, NAT, and route policy. In a nutshell, DrayTek will use three features to deal with identity access management. 1. Micro-segmentation. 2. Conditional identity access management. 3. Adaptive firewall. This is a feature planned for the future, which I'll explain more about shortly. So each user on a VLAN needs to be identified before getting access to one resource. If another resource is needed, then another authentication will be needed, depending on the configuration for that resource. For some, you might not want that. In a traditional LAN, all network devices are put in the same LAN, and the subnet mask can be raised to /16, which makes up to 65,536 devices. This is good news for malware, which likes lateral movement. Now, for Zero Trust, basic micro-segmentation is used with VLANs. Use as many as possible and let the firewall work to prevent access between the VLANs. DrayOS 5 IAM will implicitly deny access to everybody and will allow pass with conditions. And when it does, it will only allow access to the minimum of resources. Resources means anything that needs to be protected, even if it's in the cloud. Hence, Identity Access Management, IAM, is the policy decision point for network access control and resource access control. For network access control, IAM will check devices using MAC addresses, for example, and decide whether to give them access to the network. It will also support an identity check using databases such as Radius or LDAP for user account authentication. Also planned is support for Microsoft Office databases for more seamless integration within a Teams or Office account. For resource access control, when users request access to protected resources, the following parameters are taken into account. Number 1, who, using multi-factor authentication, for example. 2, when, using scheduling to give access for a certain period of time, for example, day or night or office hours. 3, where, using source IP addresses, for example. An adaptive firewall, such as the one planned for DrayTek routers, automatically allows all traffic that doesn't match an existing block rule and creates dynamic allow rules for that non-matching traffic. When the firewall is running normally, it continually monitors the network traffic that a computer sends and receives. It allows or blocks traffic based on the rules. If the traffic can't be matched against an existing rule, it is automatically blocked. You can create an explicit allow rule for any traffic. For security reasons, incoming pings, that's ICMP traffic, are blocked in adaptive firewalls unless an explicit allow rule is created for it. Incoming traffic to a port that isn't open on the host is also blocked unless an explicit allow rule is created for the traffic. For example, if the telnet service isn't running, incoming TCP traffic to port 23, that's telnet, is blocked automatically. Similarly, some control security postures may be based on recent activities, but be careful as poor security posture may lead to unnecessary blocking of users to authorized resources. Okay, let's take a look at what all that looks like. Okay, so be aware that this web UI is still in development and there may be further changes before the official releases. First, let's take a look at VLANs. So we go to Configuration LAN and then select the VLAN List tab. There's a couple already here, so I'll click on Edit to see what options are available. So here we can assign a VLAN ID, give it a name, and assign a LAN subnet. Over in the LAN Networks tab is where you can create the different LAN subnets and DHCP server details. Just click on +Add to create new ones. Next, creating firewall rules and objects is a little different, so we'll take a quick look at that. First, to create objects, go to Configuration Objects. Objects can be groups of IP addresses, MAC addresses, keywords, and so on. Creating objects allows them to be used in multiple rules. So here we have tabs for IP object, IP group, MAC object, MAC group, schedule, service type object, and keyword object, and backup and restore, where we can save the object config. We should also see a country object here by the time this goes public as well, so you can allow or block by country. Under IP object, here's one we created earlier called test IP object. Clicking on edit shows what we can do with it. So we can select either IPv4 or IPv6 or both. Address type, either IP or subnet. Then the start and end IP of the IP address range we want this to be about. IP groups, we can join selected IP objects into one group if we have several that the same rule will apply to. Just click on +Add here to add any or all IP objects created to the group. MAC objects and groups are the same principle. You can also create schedule objects, service type objects, and keyword objects. Then, once all the required objects are created, down under Security, Firewall Filters is where you create a firewall rule. So here we find tabs for IP filters, content filters, default filters, and backup and restore the firewall filters. Under IP filters, click on +Add, give it a name, enable it, set schedule, direction, then under Criteria, select IP object in the source pull-down menu. Then click on +Add to find the object required. Then select Destination, Protocol, Fragmentation, Pass or Block, and enable syslog if you want a record of it. Moving on to IAM, so first under Users and Groups we have a tab to create users. These are people we want to be able to access the network at some level. So we assign a username, set a password, You can make a user inactive here as well. Here you can send an email notification to the newly created user. Enable multi-factor authentication if you want that, and you get a choice of TOTP, email, SMS or MOTP. And at the very bottom you'll find stats of when they last logged in and what IP address they used. The User Groups tabs allows you to group multiple users together, which can save some time when applying policies to them later. For example, it may be handy to put all of the sales department users into one group. The Authentication Server tab allows you to select a Radius or TAC ACS Plus authentication server. And User and MFA Security allows you to set the number of login attempts and a penalty period, including a complete lockout from 10 minutes up to permanent, and you can also send an email to the user to let them know that's happened so they can take appropriate steps to recover their account. Under IAM policies, in the first tab you can apply policies to VLANs, however you need to create the policies first. You do that first under the Access Policies tab. If we click on +Add, we can create an access policy that will allow all block users based on their MAC addresses. Devices can be entered manually or selected from a profile. Setting up a profile may be the best way to go about it though, and you'll find that under Security, MAC Filtering Profile. Back under Access Policies, another option is Login with Built-in User function. This can employ single-factor or multi-factor authentication. We still have MAC address filtering here. There's also an allowed user list, which can be either all users or selected from a pull-down list, but users and groups first need to be set up under the Users and Groups menu we just looked at. Down the bottom there's a login session lifetime, so users will get booted after a period of time. Guest Hotspot here allows you to apply access control to a hotspot profile. Under the Group Policy tab, you can create a rule to apply to several policies. Click on +Add, select Always On or Set a Schedule, then click +Add for each allowed resource, which can be either blocked or passed. Click +Add again to add another one, and so on. Under the Conditional Access Policy tab, you can set a timeout for multi-factor authentication, or for source IP, you can permit or deny based on the LAN or IP group. Down the bottom here, you can also have either of those conditions applied based on the time of day, but you first need to create a schedule object. Under Resources, you can permit or deny access to devices in the network based on the device's IP or MAC address, or certain ports, or even a service type object. Hotspot web portal details are now found here. I won't go into this one since it's much the same as DrayOS 4. If you'd like more information on it, just search our YouTube channel for Hotspot. And the last option is Backup and Restore, which allows you to create a backup file of your IAM policies or restore them. You can also add a password to the backup file. Okay, but what if you have an older model router still using DrayOS version 4? For those, DrayTek have a few solutions which you'll find in knowledge base article number 10648. Basically, DrayTek proposes that each and every internal user log in via a VPN to get authenticated first, and then be under the firewall rules and other internal routing policies. You can find some of the encryption protocols already available on DrayTek routers such as SSL, IPsec, OpenVPN, and fairly recently WireGuard was added. More may be added as well depending on worldwide demand. The speed of some of them, such as IPsec and SSL, exceed 1 gigabit per second, and there is even hardware acceleration dedicated for IPsec VPN too. The 3910, for example, can accept 500 users, so it will accommodate SMEs well. Work from home users are also taken into consideration. TOTP and MOTP are readily available and will make password management more secure while avoiding sharing of passwords. Keep in mind that each user needs to have a smartphone app synced to the VPN server for TOTP and MOTP. DrayTek has several methods of preventing attacks such as brute force attacks. That includes the ability to add an unknown IP into an IP blacklist, allow the VPN service only from a specified country, block a dodgy VPN connection attempt with the use of brute force protection, and use syslog to get a log of attacks from the web. Check out application note 5982 for more information. You can also use country code objects to create firewall rules to block certain countries and reduce the time available for an external attack to make it more difficult for hackers who tend to prefer nights when there's less traffic and less chance of being detected. Using a time schedule for the VPN tunnels is one of the ways to limit such attacks. The syslog will register any VPN events, and you can set up email notification when there's a VPN connection. This email notification may come in handy in some situations to signal connections at unauthorized time slots. The Vigor 3912S is the new 10G high-performance load balancing VPN concentrator. It supports a new VPN from LAN function to increase the security level of your network. VPN from LAN, as its name suggests, allows a VPN remote dialing connection within a LAN. Although the local area network is safer than the internet, it's still not easy to avoid unknown devices or computers affected by viruses connecting to the local network. VPN from LAN can protect critical servers from being affected by other LAN devices by restricting access from different LAN subnets to only through a VPN. If a device or computer doesn't have a VPN account, it cannot reach the LAN servers. In the VPN profile setup, you'll find a new feature where you can enable VPN remote dial-in from a specific LAN. The VPN from LAN function will support SSL VPN, IPsec, and WireGuard VPN protocols. And you can check out active connections on the VPN connection status page. Internal VPNs will be easily visible by Class 3 IP addresses and the notation from LAN. So our summary for this session is as follows. We first went through some background information of what Zero Trust means and what benefits it brings. Then we checked out DrayTek's implementation of it in the new DrayOS 5 operating system being rolled out in newer products. That included micro-segmentation using VLANs, conditional IAM policies for network access control, including access to internal resources, and we also looked at DrayTek's object-oriented adaptive firewall. And finally, we wrapped up with some Zero Trust options for those who don't yet have access to DrayOS 5. Okay, that's all for now, but please stay tuned. If you have any questions, we'll be available in the live chat on the right of your screen for the next 5 minutes. For more information about DrayTek products, please check out our website at www.draytek.com.au or send us an email to sales@draytek.com.au or give us a call on 02 9838 8899. Please like and subscribe below, and if you'd like a notification anytime we put up a new video, please select all from the subscribe drop-down menu as well. Thanks and bye for now.